morning, everyone. Let's talk about understanding human acts versus acts of man. The human person has knowledge and will that no other living creature possesses. Saint Thomas Aquinas defined man as a rational animal. However, a human being is much more than an animal. He or she is capable of thinking and choosing freely. Thus, there is a need to clearly understand what is meant by human acts. Human acts are actions performed by a person who has full knowledge through free will. Human acts are grounded in the very nature of a person, that he or she is intelligent and free. And so, the substantial elements of human acts are knowledge, freedom, and voluntariness. All of these elements must be present in order for an act to be considered a human act. First elements of human acts. Knowledge is employed in doing a human act. This is to say that when the doer is conscious of his or her actions, his or her senses are active, and he or she is aware of the reason and the consequences of his or her actions. It directs one to be mindful of his or her actions. Second is freedom. When the doer acts through his or her own initiative and choice without being forced by another person or situation, then the act is done on the basis of freedom. It makes one acknowledge his or her own actions together with the reasons why such actions have been done. Third is voluntariness. The act is done willfully when the doer consents to the act, accepting it as his or her own, and assumes accountability for its consequences. In moral philosophy, human acts are acts that are freely chosen in consequences of a judgment of conscience, and which can be morally evaluated. The morality of a human act resides in the object chosen, the intention, and the circumstances surrounding the act. According to Catechism of the Catholic Church 1994, explains that the object chosen is a good toward which the will deliberately directs itself. Intention is an element essential to the moral evaluation of an action. The end is the first goal of the intention and indicates the purpose pursued in the action. According to Catechism of the Catholic Church 1994, the circumstances, including the consequences, are secondary elements of a moral act. They contribute to the increasing or diminishing the moral goodness or evilness of human acts. The Catholic Dictionary defines the human act as an action performed by a human being but without reflection and free consent. For example, digesting food, instinctive reaction to some external stimulus. Thus, acts of man are acts shared in common human beings and animals. Classification of human acts. Human acts are classified into two: acts of will and acts of reason. Acts of will refer to actions that humans perform freely or with their free will. According to Babor 2005, describe two kinds of acts of will: elicited acts and commanded acts. Elicited acts are acts initiated, performed, and completed by the will alone. It include wish, intention, counsel, consent, choice, command, and fruition. Commanded acts, on the other hand, are acts of will that are carried out by the mind and body as ordered by the will. It includes internal acts, external acts, and mixed acts. Acts of reason are categorized as morally right or wrong and judged as morally good or bad. Norms of human acts. Norms are accepted standards of behavior of social groups. They are unwritten rules about how people should behave. Moral norms are the rules of morality that people ought to follow. In ethics, there are two kinds of norms: conscience and law. Conscience is the inner voice that tells the person to do what is good and to avoid evil. Law is a rule of conduct enacted by competent figures of authority for the sake of the common good. Laws are classified into divine, human, temporal, internal, natural, positive, affirmative, negative, moral, and penal laws. Modifiers of human acts. These are the factors that diminish one's responsibility and impair the element a voluntariness of human acts. First is ignorance. It pertains to lack, want, or absence of knowledge in a person capable of such. There are four kinds of ignorance: ignorance of the law, ignorance of the fact, invincible ignorance, and invincible ignorance. Second is passion or concupiscence. Passion is defined as compelling desire for something. It can also refer to a person's sexual desire or lust. Passion generally has two types: antecedent and consequent. Third is fear. Fear is defined as a feeling induced by perceived danger or threat. When one is fearful, he or she is struck by an instinct to protect himself or herself. One of the benefits of fear is that it is an instinct which engenders the self-preservation. Fourth is violence. Violence is a physical force exerted in a person by another free agent for the purpose of compelling the said person to act against his or her will. Fifth is habits. Habits are inclination to perform specific acts acquired by repetition and characterized by decreased power of resistance and increased facility of performance. It is also called second nature, at times embedded in an individual.